All right, welcome everybody. As you're arriving, if you would, please use the chat box below to say a word or two about how you're feeling or perhaps what brought you here today. And we'll be starting shortly.
Yeah, as everybody's checking in, why don't you just take a seat, relax, arrive. We'll give it a few more, a minute or so, and then we'll begin with our presence practice in earnest.
I'm seeing some familiar names showing up here. Oh, wow. Great. If you've just joined us, we're letting people gather. And if you want, find your seat, take a nice deep breath, and maybe give us a sentence or two in the chat about what brought you here or maybe how you're feeling today.
Hey, Christina. Hey, Jeff. Boy, it's kind of weird not being able to talk to each other. Kind of a good thing to have with your family. You can just talk.
I see somebody here named Robin. Hi, Robin.
Oh, beautiful day in Ontario. And yes, lonely. We've had a yard party with our neighbors, staying far apart from each other and getting to know each other better than we have in years. Hey, Paul.
Okay, well, as people continue to arrive, let's go ahead and get started. If you have just arrived, we're asking people to put a sentence or a word or two into the chat that describes how they're feeling, how they're doing. So welcome to the Presence Practice community. This is our first edition. Me and my partner here, Richard McDonald. The origin of this Zoom webinar really came from our flagship program in leadership development called CII, also known as Credibility, Influence, and Impact. A major focus of that program is what we call presence, and we often have participants afterwards say, what could we do outside of that program? And we've been wanting to do this for years, and the COVID situation has really raised the importance of this practice in our minds, but also has given us the opportunity to take it on. So we're excited about that. Our purpose is to establish the practice of presence as a reliable and calming resource, really increasing our capacity to deal with all the different stresses that are coming at us, and also give us an opportunity to make more of an authentic contribution. So we're excited about that. The method we're using is these webinars, and they're 15-minute little parts of our day. We'll also do it again Friday, and then we'll continue Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the rest of this month, always at noon Eastern. And if you're not here for the live broadcast, you can go to our new webpage and look at the recording. So just to say it, my name is Roger Henderson. I'm sitting here in Boulder, Colorado. And Richard, would you say a little bit about
I'm Richard. I'm sitting in Austin, where it's going to be close to 90 degrees today. It's hard to believe. Just a delight to be doing this, as Roger said, after all the years of requesting. I love the quote that creativity loves constraint. So here we are creating our first presence practice. So Roger had asked me to sort of name what is presence. I think presence is a state that's always available to us. We're always present to something. And the question, of course, in these moments where we're really challenged and find ourselves at times, I do, quite overwhelmed and heading towards reactivity, is, can I slow down? Can I take a moment to be here where I am and make decisions and choices that will be helpful? I have a quick quote, Thich Nhat Hanh: feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. So we hope that the presence practice will give all of us a chance to anchor be present for our emotions and feelings, and realize that we are grounded in something that is solid, and that's what our practices will be. So thanks, Roger.
All right, thank you, Richard. Well, I'm going to take us right into our practice for today. Our theme is really about really embracing our reactivity and understanding it so we have more choices. And the practice we're going to do today is a sitting practice. So I'll lead us through this. How would I start? So I'm going to do it standing up, and I'm going to invite you all to do it standing up. I know that may not be possible given your office situation. We've seen some interesting setups for people. So if you need to do it in your chair, that's fine. The one bit of translation I'll say is whenever I talk about feet, when I'm in the standing position, you can have your feet square on the floor under your chair. And you can also extend that to say your sit bones. So instead of feet, maybe think feet and sit bones if you're in the chair. So let's dive into the practice, and here we go. I'm going to bring my little handy dandy timer so I'm not overshooting here. Let me peek it one more time. Good. So if you're standing, I invite you to put your feet on the floor about shoulder width apart. And what's great about this video is I can see myself. So adjust it. So if you're too narrow, that won't be great. And if you're too wide, so just find shoulder width apart. And just bring your attention to your breath for a moment. Nice deep breath in and out. In and out. So centering. Centering is a place, if we are centered, that we're continually adjusting to be. And what we know is when we're reactive, and the different emotional states will take us off of center. So let's find center so we know what being centered feels like. There's three different dimensions of it. One is in the vertical, one's side to side, and then fore and aft. So vertically, with your feet shoulder width apart, and your knees unlocked, imagine somebody's grabbing you by the crown of your head and pulling straight upward. So I'm kind of stretching out, getting taller and taller. My knees may lock for a moment. And I like to imagine that this is creating a little bit of space between all my vertebrae. And then I relax my knees a little and settle in. Noticing my leg is shaking a little today. I must be feeling nervous. Do that again. Go ahead and imagine somebody pulling up on the crown of your head and settling in. So that might be vertical in the up and down plane. Now let's move to side by side. So if I move over to the right side and feel the pressure on my outside of my right foot, that's one side. To my left here, so let's just move back and forth. If you move so far that you need to stick a foot out to regain balance, that's just fine. Just put your feet back under you, shoulder width apart, and recenter. Now I'm narrowing my movement as I go, making it smaller and smaller until it's so small I'm just doing micro adjustments. Like I like to imagine that the earth is still turning and I need to keep adjusting to stay centered. So now I'm centered vertically and side to side. Now I'd like you to explore fore and aft. So if I turn to the side so you can see it, you don't need to turn. I still have my feet shoulder width apart. I'm going to tilt forward, and then I'm going to tilt back. Forward and back. Feel the balls of my feet and the heels of my feet. I'm going to continue that. Fore and aft. And now I'm going to start to narrow that movement until I find center there. And again, they might not be visible to you, but I'm making micro adjustments fore and aft. Once I'm there, I recheck in with vertical, relax, side to side, and fore and aft. Now I have this nice centered position. Any of you that are athletes know that this is where our best performance comes from, is a centered position with some attention on our center of mass. With that, if you would, put your right thumb on your belly button, let your fingers sit down on the lower part of your stomach, and just bring your attention to your breath. And as you're doing this, if you'd like to let your eyes close, please do. If that's uncomfortable, you can just let them go soft. And I'm going to be quiet here for a second as we just notice our breath. Eventually, I can feel my hand raising and lowering on my stomach. And when I feel that, I let my hand drop to the side. This whole time, I'm checking back in. Am I centered vertically, horizontally, and fore and aft? But making micro adjustments to stay centered. So we could call this a place of purpose, a place of intention and direction, centered. Now I want to play with this just for a second. When we say reactive and we become reactive, what does that mean in our bodies? How does that impact our way of being and our performance? And so my invitation is for you to bring to mind in a moment I'll give you particular instructions, but imagine that your body is a highly sensitive listening device. And we want to record any disruptions to center, anything that takes us off center. So find center and breathe. And if you would, with your listening device of your body, highly tuned and sensitive, bring to mind something that is a current worry for you. And let that take hold of you. Let that do its thing. I'm exaggerating it right now as I bring my own worry to bear. And let it take you over and feel it, be with it. Don't avoid it if at all possible. Exaggerate it if you can. Maybe make note of what's actually happening to you and in your body. Be with this. Make note. All right. Then recenter. Bring yourself back from that. Big deep breath in and out. All right, if you would, please re-find your seat. So I'll give you the account that I had with regard to what happened when I brought up the worry. What happened to me was, and I practiced this, so it was actually quite unique today. The center of my chest moved in like this. It collapsed inward. My shoulders also rolled forward, but they also came up near my ears. So a lot of tension right in the center of my chest, as compared to often I feel it more in my lower gut and my right shoulder moves forward. So some nuanced changes, and I did bring a different worry to mind. So maybe that has something to do with it. So what's the value of doing all that interesting movement? For me, it's once I can notice my reactivity, once I'm a witness of my own reactivity, I have more choice. If I'm unconscious of my reactivity, then I will usually follow fear's advice, which following fear's advice often leads us to manifesting the actual fear itself. And not following fear, just letting fear be an advisor, letting fear tell us what the worry is. And then we can bring our values and our purpose and our intention to make our decisions. So that's the value. As far as a practice goes, my recommendation is to use this and the other practices we're going to be doing in the next few weeks as often as possible, at least once a day maybe, but more often if not. For centering, you see my workspace behind me here. I am often taking a break between meetings and going right where you just saw me and practicing a centering practice. This office is a little off of my house, and my family in this crisis is all across the way right now. So I'm entering that room. I may often do a centering on our deck before I enter the main house. So I go in with intention to be with my family versus the leftover residue of the emotional state of the last meeting. So that's it for today. Thanks for participating in our first presence practice community practice. I invite you to type in a few words in chat as you exit of how you're doing, any insights you gained, any questions you have, and I'll let that run for a bit. And invite you also to join us on Friday at noon Eastern. And again, that'll be happening every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the rest of April. So thanks, everybody, and have a lovely day.